You're alone. Nobody is in your room. Nobody behind you. Nobody at the door. Nobody at the window. But suddenly, you feel something. A strange sensation. Like a pair of eyes is fixed on your back. Like someone is watching you. And the worst part is that the feeling is so strong that you end up doing exactly what all of us do. You turn around, and there's nobody there. Nobody spoke to you. You didn't hear footsteps. You didn't see a shadow. Nothing. And yet, for a few seconds, you were completely convinced that someone was standing right behind you. Has that ever happened to you? Because if the answer is yes, you're not alone. Millions of people around the world experience this exact same feeling. And for a very long time, nobody really knew why. Some people blamed psychic powers, others blamed ghosts, and some believed it was a hidden sixth sense inherited from our ancient ancestors. But the real explanation is much stranger, because it turns out your brain has an almost obsessive need to detect eyes, even when they aren't there. The idea of feeling someone's gaze on the back of your neck isn't new. In fact, for centuries, people believed humans could somehow sense when they were being watched. And the reason seemed obvious. So many people claimed they had experienced it. They would be sitting, working, walking, and suddenly they'd feel that strange pressure. They'd turn around, and someone really was staring at them. So many people reported the same thing that scientists eventually decided to test it. The experiments were surprisingly simple. One person sat facing forward, another stood behind them. Sometimes they stared directly at the participant. Other times they didn't. The task was simple. Guess when you're being watched. And something interesting happened. Many participants were convinced they could do it. They felt they had some special ability. But when researchers analyzed the results, most people performed no better than random guessing. What seemed like a supernatural skill vanished when it was carefully measured. And that led to an even more interesting question. If we can't magically detect someone's gaze, why are we so sure that we can? The answer lies in one of the most important jobs your brain has ever had: staying alive. Imagine you're a human being living 100,000 years ago. You don't have doors. You don't have locks. You don't have security cameras. And you definitely don't have the internet distracting you. Every sound could be a predator. Every movement in the bushes could be a threat. In that world, mistakes had consequences. And there were two kinds of mistakes. The first was thinking something was watching you when it wasn't. The second was ignoring a real threat. Which mistake was more dangerous? Obviously the second one. That's why evolution favored brains that were extremely sensitive. Brains that would rather be wrong 10 times than miss one real danger. In other words, your brain would rather scare you unnecessarily than risk your survival. And that strategy is still running today, even though we're no longer surrounded by saber-toothed predators. That's why you can be alone in your house and still feel a presence. That's why a jacket hanging on a chair can look like a person for half a second. And that's why, when a room gets dark, your imagination suddenly starts working overtime. Your brain isn't searching for truth, it's searching for safety. And if it has to invent a few threats along the way, it's perfectly happy to do so. There's another fascinating detail. Humans are unbelievably good at detecting eyes, almost ridiculously good. So good that sometimes we see faces where no faces exist. You've probably experienced it. An electrical outlet suddenly looks surprised. The front of a car seems to be smiling. Random stains on a wall somehow look like they have expressions. This phenomenon actually has a scientific name. It's called pareidolia. Your brain is constantly searching for faces because faces contain critical information. Friend or enemy, angry or happy, safe or dangerous. For millions of years, quickly recognizing a face was a huge advantage. So our brains evolved specialized systems that can identify faces in a fraction of a second. The problem is that now we detect faces even when they were never there to begin with. And when you think you sense eyes behind you, those same systems are often exaggerating vague signals. Your brain fills in the rest of the story. There's something even more interesting. Sometimes someone actually is watching you, but you only remember those moments. Think about it. How many times have you felt a gaze, turned around, and found absolutely nobody there? Probably hundreds. And how many times did you turn around and discover that someone really was staring at you? Maybe a few. So why do those moments stick in your memory? Because they're surprising. Your brain loves coincidences. It stores them. It turns them into stories. It replays them over and over. And before long, you start believing you have some kind of secret radar. Meanwhile, the hundreds of times nothing happened quietly disappear from memory. It's a psychological trick so common that it affects nearly every area of our lives. We remember the hits, we forget the misses, and that makes certain phenomena seem far more mysterious than they really are. So the next time you feel like someone is watching you, it probably isn't a ghost, it probably isn't a strange energy, and it's almost certainly not a hidden superpower. Most likely, you're experiencing one of the oldest survival mechanisms in human history, a system designed to keep you alive, even if that means making you glance over your shoulder every now and then. And the amazing part is that after millions of years of evolution, it still works. Because as long as your brain believes it's better to be safe than sorry, it will keep making you feel like someone is standing behind you, even when there's absolutely nobody there. Now I want to hear from you. What's the strangest time you've ever felt like someone was watching you? Tell me in the comments. And if you enjoy fascinating mysteries about how the human mind works, subscribe, because there are plenty more strange things happening inside your head right now.